So this is an ammeter and it's used to measure the current in amps in a circuit, and this one here is a voltmeter that measures the potential difference in volts. Now the word meter just means it's measuring something, but both of these can only measure one thing over a limited range of values. And sometimes it's more useful to have a multimeter which can measure different things. So this one over here, again the one that you might see in school might vary slightly. We've got V with a slightly wavy line, so this measures the potential difference when we have an alternating power supply. We also have the same thing over here if we have a voltage or potential difference for a DC power supply, and we can see depending on the size of that voltage we can adjust the dial so that we're getting the right range of readings on the screen here. It also measures the current just like the ammeter that we had before, and also it has a few extra settings. If we push it down to this part here, this symbol here, the ohm, the letter omega, measures something in ohms, which means that we can measure the resistance of a component directly. So I can do that with a couple of leads. One of them always goes into the bottom socket, the common socket down here. And for most of the other readings, we're going to use this middle thing here. What I can do is then connect it up to something. In this case, I just have a light dependent resistor. And what we can then do is, if we need to, we can adjust the dial till we get to the right value. And you might see here that the number's changing. And if I was to put my hand across it, as I'm decreasing the amount of light it receives, the resistance increases. It actually goes beyond the range of the multimeter, so I can adjust it maybe to this one over here. And now we can see as it gets darker, the resistance increases, and when it's brighter, the resistance decreases. The only other thing here is that if you're to maybe measure a high current, we've got something which says 10A. So we can use this setting if we want to measure a high current in a circuit that goes up to 10 amps, whereas if we wanted to look at a lower current, we could use this setting here. If you have a circuit and you're not sure about the current, it might be best to start with a 10 amp, and that means that it doesn't blow the internal fuse in the multimeter. So this device here has many uses. And sometimes, depending on what experiments you're doing at school, you might get to see one of these, and hopefully if you put in the wires into the common one and this one here, adjust it to the setting, you should be able to get some really good results for any experiment that you're doing.